Welcome, dearly beloved, anointed ones. Today is a moment of profound recognition, a pause to honor the journey you have endured, a journey that demanded every ounce of strength, patience, and resilience you could muster. There comes a point where the fire of life has burned everything it could, stripping away illusions, deceptions, and attachments, leaving only the essence of who you truly are. That essence, the unbreakable, refined core of your spirit, is all that remains standing. You have walked through trials that tested the very limits of your endurance, not only physically, but emotionally and spiritually. And now, in this sacred moment, divine intervention declares enough. The cycle is complete. The lesson has been delivered. The storm has run its course, and you stand on the other side, changed forever. There is a remarkable truth in this recognition. The human body and spirit have limits. Just as the body eventually shuts down receptors to protect itself from unbearable pain, your spirit too reaches a threshold. There is a point at which heaven, the universe, or the higher forces guiding your journey steps in and says, "This is the end of this lesson." Your evolution demands closure. It is at this junction that you realize you are no longer a participant in endless suffering. You have moved beyond the cycle that once held you captive. The past cannot reclaim you because your growth has redefined the rules entirely. You have crossed the ashes of your former trials, and the fire that once threatened to consume you no longer has any authority over your life. To frame this truth in a way that resonates deeply, imagine your past suffering as a bad Netflix series, one filled with unnecessary plot twists, betrayals, and heartbreak that seemed endless. You endured episodes that tested your patience and resolve, with cliffhangers that kept you in suspense far longer than necessary. But at last, the show has been canceled. There will be no reruns, no sequels, no reboots. The torment is over, not merely offering relief, but signaling a transformation. This conclusion is not about life becoming easier or circumstances suddenly favoring you. The end of that suffering is evidence that you have grown into a version of yourself even your past self could not recognize, a version equipped to navigate life with wisdom, discernment, and an unshakable inner authority. The core message is clear. The cycle has ended not because the world changed, but because you have outgrown the lessons it sought to teach. Every tear, every moment of despair, every sleepless night, and every betrayal was purposeful. They were part of a curriculum written specifically for your soul, a curriculum designed to expand your capacity, deepen your understanding, and forge a resilience that could not have been attained any other way. You were delivered not through avoidance but through development, and that very process ensures that you will never be trapped in the same fire again. What you endured was not wasted, it was tuition, and now you have graduated into a higher version of yourself. The first truth for the chosen ones is that the cycle has ended through growth. This is not a superficial or fleeting change. It is the deep internal evolution that comes only when lessons have been fully absorbed. Every trial, every betrayal, every season of loss served to shape a version of you that is no longer bound by the limitations of your past self. You have shed attachments to the old identities that once carried fear, doubt, or insecurity. The self that required validation, protection, or escape has been left behind. In its place stands a refined spirit, one that recognizes its value, its authority, and its capacity to endure. This growth is proof that wisdom has been internalized. The lessons of pain are no longer external obstacles, but internalized principles guiding your every decision. You do not simply survive, you thrive, informed by the deep knowledge gained through experience. Connected to this truth is the realization that pain itself functioned as a deliberate curriculum. Life in all its trials was not random. Every disappointment, heartbreak, and challenge was a teacher delivering lessons no textbook could provide. You were enrolled in a school that did not seek your consent, and the lectures came in forms both subtle and harsh. Endurance became your first skill. You learned to navigate hardship without breaking, to persist, even when the night seemed endless. Discernment followed you. Began to see motives and patterns that others could not perceive, understanding who and what deserved your energy. Gratitude emerged often in moments when it seemed impossible to feel. An observation, the quiet, patient witnessing of life's mechanics, became a tool for clarity for navigating future encounters with precision and confidence. These were not incidental gains. They were carefully calibrated lessons designed to elevate you above repetition. The key insight here is that graduation does not imply the absence of challenges. Life will always present obstacles, but the exact trials that once held power over you cannot repeat with the same intensity or leverage. Your internal benchmark has shifted. The storms that once threatened to break you now serve as familiar tests that you can navigate with mastery. You carry spiritual, emotional, and mental certificates of strength and wisdom, proof that the fire has refined you rather than consumed you. This is a permanent elevation of your being. The hardships of yesterday have left an imprint, not of damage, but of empowerment. You have graduated with honors and resilience, insight, and unwavering presence. And so, chosen ones, understand this: what you endured was never wasted. The cycle has closed because you have absorbed its teachings, outgrown its limits, and claimed the wisdom it sought to impart. Every past struggle is now a tool in your arsenal. Every scar a testimony to your capability, and every lesson a foundation for the higher life you are now prepared to inhabit. You have completed the curriculum of pain, and the diploma is your mastery, the assurance that you will never face the same trial in the same way again. The next revelation for the chosen ones is that walking away ends oppression. Many fail to recognize the quiet, powerful truth that those who seek to control or dominate rely entirely on your participation. Oppressors, manipulators, and toxic forces thrive not because of their cunning, but because of the energy you feed into their games. Every defense, every attempt to explain yourself, every moment of frustration or fear is a fuel that sustains their illusion of power. But the moment you step out of that system, not with resistance, but with refusal, the framework collapses. The rules they expected you to play by no longer bind you. The push and pull, the constant manipulation loses its momentum. You do not need to shout expose or retaliate to claim freedom. Silence, indifference, and the deliberate withdrawal of energy are far more potent than any confrontation. Walking away is not surrender. It is the ultimate declaration of sovereignty over your own life. By refusing to participate in the mechanics of control, you dissolve the very power that once seemed insurmountable. Linked to this truth is the realization that spirit expansion occurs in the spaces of endurance and pressure. True growth is not a passive state. It is forged in the crucible of trial, in the moments where external pressures test the elasticity of your being. The very forces meant to fracture, limit, or diminish, you become the instruments through which your capacity enlarges. Where they anticipated collapse, you discovered strength. Where they designed deception, you exercised discernment. Every trial that once seemed unbearable became a teacher stretching your spirit beyond former limits. Survival alone is insufficient to capture the depth of your transformation. Evolution is not merely existing despite adversity, it is expanding because of it. Your endurance under pressure translates into a level of spiritual, emotional, and mental capacity that far surpasses anything you once believed possible. Each challenge you face now serves as both a proving ground and a platform for elevation. The key insight in this phase of awakening is that true liberation comes not from defeating others, but from refusing to play. The cycles of manipulation and oppression cannot continue when awareness sharpens and boundaries are fortified. It is not about controlling your oppressors, it is about controlling your own energy, your own reactions, your own sovereignty. Once you recognize that your power is inherent and independent, the repeated dramas of others hold no authority. Oppression ends not because the external forces change, but because you have evolved to a level where their tactics no longer have purchase. The chain is broken at its source. The consent once given knowingly or unknowingly is withdrawn forever. Chosen ones understand this by walking away, by expanding your spirit, and by refusing to engage in cycles that once trapped you. You claim freedom that is unassailable. You no longer feed the systems designed to limit you. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the architect of your own liberation. The power you have gained is quiet, yet absolute, and it ensures that the same oppression cannot touch you again. The next stage for the chosen ones is the profound realization that claiming your soul is the ultimate act of liberation. For too long, external forces, people, circumstances, societal expectations, and even internalized fears have tried to dictate your worth, your choices, and the trajectory of your life. Trauma whispered lies, manipulative forces, built invisible cages, and past wounds created barriers that seemed impossible to scale. Yet the moment you firmly, silently, and unapologetically declare authority over your own existence, everything that once held sway over you loses its grip. Reclaiming your soul is not a loud act of rebellion. It is a quiet, unshakable recognition that your spirit answers to no one but you. The chains forged by manipulation, fear, or old patterns cannot bind a person who refuses to consent. As soon as ownership is claimed, the illusions of control dissolve. The power that others imagined they had evaporates because it was never real. It relied entirely on your willingness to surrender it. This reclamation naturally leads to permanent transformation. True freedom is not granted by external circumstances. It is rooted in internal evolution. Once you evolve beyond the version of yourself that could be trapped, manipulated, or diminish, the cycles that once constrained you can no longer repeat. Every lesson absorbed, every boundary fortified, and every limitation transcended contributes to a new baseline of existence. You do not merely escape the old environment or circumstance, you outgrow it. The transformation is internal, uncompromising, and irreversible. The version of you that could bend under pressure, succumb to fear, or remain dependent on external validation simply no longer exists. Growth is a non-negotiable process. It cannot be partially adopted. The soul that has claimed its authority is not just stronger, it is sovereign, untouchable, and aligned with its highest potential. The key insight of this phase is that the permanence of change stems from the eradication of the old self. The person who once endured suffering with hesitation or uncertainty has been replaced by someone fully conscious of their own power. Cycles of manipulation, oppression, and limitation cannot reach you, not because the external world has softened, but because your internal landscape has shifted. Every attempt to revisit old traps will fail not due to luck, but because you have evolved into someone fundamentally incompatible with those constraints. This is sovereignty in its purest form, the internal declaration that your spirit belongs to no one but you, and that the lessons you were meant to learn have been fully integrated. For the chosen ones, this phase signifies a profound turning point. Claiming your soul and achieving permanent transformation is not a temporary reprieve, it is a foundational shift. It is the moment when internal authority replaces fear, wisdom replaces doubt, and evolution replaces mere survival. You are no longer the person who could be constrained by past patterns. You have crossed the threshold from reaction to mastery, from victimhood to sovereignty, and from temporary strength to enduring power. The cycles have ended because you have outgrown them, and the freedom you now hold is unassailable, born not from circumstance, but from the uncompromising reclamation of self. Having claimed your soul and embraced permanent transformation, the next stage is the cultivation of resilient energy and immunity to attack. True strength is not merely surviving trials, it is allowing past wounds to become a form of armor. Every betrayal, heartbreak, and setback has been repurposed as reinforcement. Where once your vulnerabilities invited exploitation, they now signal resilience. Predators, whether they are toxic people, manipulative systems, or circumstances designed to weaken you, can no longer find purchase. The energy you emit communicates boundaries and strength that cannot be breached. Strength in this context is not aggression, it is impermeable presence. It is the quiet, unassailable force of someone who has been tempered by fire and emerged fortified in energy that discourages attack simply by existing. Surviving the worst amplifies this resilience. The storms you faced were not ordinary. They pushed you beyond previous limits, testing endurance, character, and discernment to extreme degrees. When the most intense challenges are navigated successfully, every subsequent trial becomes comparatively manageable. Your internal benchmark has been recalibrated. Ordinary hardships that once might have broken you now seem minor because your spirit has been tested at its absolute capacity. Surviving the worst is not a transient victory, it is a permanent reset of expectation, a proof that nothing less can destabilize you. You now operate from a foundation built on endurance, wisdom, and profound self-mastery. Yet the true liberation comes not from avoiding storms, but from walking through them fully. Being delivered through the fire rather than out of it ensures that transformation is complete and irreversible. You did not escape pain by chance or convenience. You faced it intentionally, step by step, absorbing the lessons embedded in each trial. Liberation, therefore, is inseparable from the process of endurance. It is the cumulative effect of facing extreme adversity, internalizing its teachings, and emerging intact, unshakable, and expanded in capacity. The storms of the past now serve as evidence of power rather than sources of fear. You carry the unspoken proof that nothing, no matter how intense, can undo the work that has been done within you. The key insight of this stage is profound. Surviving the worst rewires perception of fear and vulnerability. Your energy, boundaries, and resilience now create an environment where repeated attacks are ineffective. The challenges that once intimidated you no longer hold the same sway because your spirit has grown beyond their reach. Each layer of protection built from experience, scars, and lessons renders old tactics powerless. You have transformed prior trauma into a fortress of strength, and your presence alone communicates that the old cycles cannot repeat. Resilient energy is not only a shield, it is a declaration. The person who walked through the storm cannot be shaken by lesser trials, and the immunity forged in fire is now permanent. As your spirit has been fortified and your energy made resilient, the next stage of transformation involves recognizing that your growth cannot coexist with environments that once harmed or constrained you. The soul that has endured, evolved, and expanded naturally outgrows the spaces, systems, and relationships that once held it captive. These old environments, whether toxic workplaces, manipulative social circles, or limiting communities, were structured to contain a version of you that no longer exists. Returning to them would feel suffocating, because the energy, insight, and wisdom you now carry are incompatible with what those spaces were designed to contain. You cannot shrink to fit back into the mold of the past. The walls that once contained you now feel confining, the air too thin, the structures too small. This is not just a matter of circumstance, it is a law of growth. The evolved self cannot be held hostage by what no longer matches its frequency. Healing becomes the instrument through which this natural separation is both revealed and enforced. When you recover from past trauma, dismantle the effects of manipulation, and reclaim your power, the systems that relied on your pain begin to crumble. Those who thrived on your vulnerability are confronted not with confrontation, but with undeniable proof of your sovereignty. Your restoration itself becomes judgment, quiet, irreversible, and complete. Every boundary you enforce, every moment of clarity you uphold, and every step forward taken in strength is evidence that the old mechanisms of control are no longer effective. Healing does not just restore you, it rewires the dynamics of influence, exposing manipulative patterns as powerless in the presence of evolved consciousness. This stage also emphasizes a profound insight. Growth creates natural separation from toxic systems, and evolution prevents cycles from repeating. You no longer operate under the same limitations that once allowed others to dictate your worth or direction. Where you once might have tolerated injustice, exploitation, or betrayal, you now recognize the incompatibility of such energies with your expanded self. Life no longer permits you to be trapped by patterns you have already outgrown. Every step forward is in alignment with the spaces, people, and systems that honor your growth, and the old environments cannot reassert authority over a spirit that has transcended them. In essence, evolution is both a personal victory and a structural realignment. Your expansion ensures that repetition of past harm is impossible. The cycle is broken not through retaliation or avoidance, but through undeniable internal change and growth. You move forward untethered from what once confined you, carrying the wisdom that allows you to thrive in environments calibrated to your evolved frequency. Outgrowing past systems is proof that your evolution is permanent, and the lessons you endured have secured both your freedom and your sovereignty. After enduring storms that seemed unending and trials that pushed every boundary of your strength, a remarkable shift emerges, a quiet victory that few recognize, but all who have truly survived understand. This silence after the storm is not emptiness or absence. It is the unmistakable signature of triumph. Where once chaos reigned and attacks threatened to overwhelm, there is now a calm that speaks louder than any noise. The battlefield has not vanished, but the weapons have lost their power because you stand untouchable. Every attack that sought to shake your faith, undermine your spirit, or compromise your peace has been neutralized by the resilience you cultivated in the fire. This stillness is not passive. It is an active testament to endurance. It is proof that you have weathered what others feared would destroy you and emerged not just intact, but fortified. The quiet is loaded with evidence, the scars that healed the lessons that were absorbed, and the inner strength that now radiates in every thought, action, and decision. In this calm, the world may appear unchanged, yet you are irrevocably transformed. The chaos no longer dictates your experience because you have transcended its authority. As this calm becomes your new baseline, forward momentum naturally follows. The next stage of your journey demands a higher standard, for evolution is never static. The future you are moving into requires more than survival. It calls for mastery, focus, and the disciplined expansion of your capacity. Old patterns, recycled pain, and repetitive struggles no longer have a place in your life because your growth has elevated your thresholds. The stakes are higher, and the energy you now carry cannot be diluted by the familiar traps of your past. Every step forward is purposeful, deliberate, and aligned with your higher calling. Where once survival dictated your decisions, now wisdom, discernment, and sovereignty guide your path. The challenges ahead will test this new self, but they will never replicate the lessons already mastered because your spirit has evolved to navigate them with clarity and authority. The key insight of this stage is profound. True victory is internal quiet, invisible only to those attuned to its depth. It is not announced with fanfare, but embodied in composure, integrity, and unshakable confidence. Forward motion is not optional. It is the natural expression of spiritual evolution. The storm has passed, the lessons have been mastered, and the space ahead demands that you rise, expand, and carry your wisdom into new arenas. Your calm is evidence of mastery, and your movement into the future is proof that evolution is permanent. The silence after the storm is your affirmation you have survived, you have grown, and you are ready for the higher purpose that lies ahead. As the quiet of victory settles in, the evidence of your transformation becomes undeniable. The journey you have endured is etched into every fiber of your being, visible not only in your actions, but in the very way you occupy space in the world. Carrying permanent proof is not about displaying scars as a badge of suffering. It is about recognizing that every mark, every wound that once bled has become a tool, a lesson, and a pillar of your strength. These experiences are now inscribed into your intuition, shaping your discernment and guiding your judgment with an authority that cannot be replicated or taken away. Each scar serves as a record of survival, a chronicle of mastery over challenges that once seemed insurmountable. They are tangible evidence that the storm you passed through was not in vain, that the fire tempered your spirit, and that the person you are now could never be the same as the one who entered it. Transformation is not theoretical. It is visible in your choices, your boundaries, and your capacity to remain centered when chaos presents itself. The world may attempt to test you, but your foundation, built on wisdom, resilience, and sovereignty, is impervious. You now hold the instruments of life, mastery, the lessons extracted from pain, the strength forged under pressure, and the clarity gained from every betrayal and trial. These are not temporary tools, they are permanent. Where others remain caught in cycles they cannot escape, you move forward with confidence, knowing that repetition is no longer possible. The patterns that once dominated your life are powerless against a spirit that has grown beyond them. This visible evidence of transformation validates every tear, every sleepless night, and every moment of doubt that once threatened to overwhelm you. It proves that the lessons of life were purposeful, that suffering was a curriculum designed for growth rather than punishment. What you carry now is a living testament to evolution, an inner library of experience, a reservoir of insight, and a shield of unshakable strength. Every decision you make, every boundary you enforce, and every choice to honor your higher self is backed by this proof. You are no longer merely surviving, you are living in alignment with the highest version of yourself, fully aware of the tools, wisdom, and sovereignty that your journey was meant to deliver. The chapter is closed, the cycles are broken, and the story of your past now serves as both foundation and testimony. This evidence of transformation is permanent, unmistakable, and irrefutable. You have become the living embodiment of what it means to endure, to evolve, and to rise. No force, no manipulation, and no circumstance can undo the mastery you now carry. The scars and lessons are your authority, your armor and your guide, signaling to the world and to yourself that the chosen ones have not only survived, but have emerged sovereign, untouchable, and fully equipped for the next stage of their divine journey. As we arrive at the culmination of this journey, it is essential to pause and recognize the totality of what has been achieved. Life's trials, which once seemed endless and insurmountable, have been fully completed. The storms that tested your endurance, the betrayals that challenged your trust, and the circumstances designed to limit your potential have all served their purpose. Each trial, once seemingly unbearable, now stands as a monument to your growth, and the cycles that once held you captive have been decisively closed. This is not merely survival, it is evolution. You have emerged on the other side with a version of yourself that cannot be returned to the old patterns, old limitations, or old traps. Every lesson has been internalized, every scar transformed into a tool, and every moment of struggle transformed into wisdom. Your life now reflects not the chaos you endured, but the mastery you cultivated in response to it. With this understanding comes the responsibility to engage and inspire the greater community of chosen ones. The power of your transformation is amplified when shared, when used as a beacon to others who are still navigating their own storms. Subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing are not merely digital actions, they are acts of spiritual resonance. Every engagement carries the potential to ignite awareness, encourage resilience, and empower someone to recognize that the cycle can indeed be broken. Your story, your mastery, and your visible proof of evolution are not meant to remain in isolation. They are part of a collective awakening, a network of souls learning, rising, and claiming sovereignty together. By extending this knowledge, you reinforce the truth that struggle is always purposeful and that growth is always available to those who choose it. Finally, as we anchor this message, it is crucial to affirm the permanence of your victory. Transformation is irreversible. The version of you that could be shaken, deceived, or limited no longer exists. The wisdom, resilience, and unshakable strength you now carry have become the defining elements of your life. You stand untouchable, sovereign in thought, action, and spirit. No external circumstance can replicate the intensity of your prior trials, and no manipulative force can breach the armor of your evolved soul. This is the reality of being chosen. The journey of fire has ended. The proof of mastery is embodied in your presence, and the path ahead is illuminated by your capacity to rise higher than ever before. Let this conclusion serve as both celebration and activation. Stand in your sovereignty, claim your transformation, share your victory. Your life is living testimony. The cycle is over, the storm has passed, and the chosen ones have emerged, eternal, untouchable, and fully aligned with their highest purpose.